I'm going to do a quick update on how I'm teaching my little one languages and what we're studying and how we're practicing. I am American, grew up in the States. I speak English is, I joke, I say that English is my only like fluent language. I'm a native English speaker. I grew up around a lot of Lakota. That was actually my half brother's first language was Lakota, or his native language, and then um, but I only know like little bits of it from high school and just growing up in near the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation and the Oglala Lakota tribes. But I found it interesting. I speak pretty good Portuguese. I'm really out of practice, but I did reach like a low B1 level. Not in every area. I don't my reading comprehension for a longer text is not quite B1, but as far as like speaking and listening, it was B1 at its best. Um, and so technically not B1, like I couldn't have, so anyways, yeah. But they say like once you get to a B1 level, you don't really lose a language. And so even though I've forgotten a lot of vocabulary, and I don't remember details, and it's not as easy as it once was, I can speak Portuguese. And when I was in Italy this last month, I was able to use Portuguese just fine and didn't have any issues, which was really, really cool. And it kind of surprised me. Um, I also speak Hindi. I learned in Laramie, Wyoming. I learned Portuguese in Brazil. I'm teaching English there. And then the first month and the second month, my translator got sick. And then I practiced on did grammar after I got back. So I had to use it there. It's kind of like trial by fire. Like I just had to. And that was after learning Hindi. So I kind of figured out how my brain works. And I read a dictionary while I was there over and over several times in Brazil. Um, Hindi, I learned in Laramie, Wyoming after going on an art class trip to India. Um, so Hindi, I spent about 6 months, and like I really felt like I was called to just like learn to like be able to read the Bible in 6 months after getting back from India. And so I did. And that was a lot of learning how to learn a language was that 6 months. Um, and so that's when I learned to learn a language. And then after that was when I learned Portuguese, which Portuguese came a lot quicker because I had a decent Spanish background. But then I speak Portuguese, like my Spanish is gone mostly right now. And I hope to distinguish those two sometime, separate them because it'd be great to speak Spanish where we live. But anyways, I don't. So those are my main languages, and I've dabbled. Like I can do, I can do enough Chinese to like mess with a telemarketer. That's about it though. Or like talk to a little kid in Chinese and like confuse them. Um, and then I know sign language. I worked with deaf kids and then adults with disabilities, and then I also learned sign language for music in high school. Um, so sign language, Hindi, and Portuguese are kind of like my strongest languages. Um, and I'm not so with the little one. Okay, excuse me. So that's the background on my background. So what I'm doing with the little one currently, he's 2. He's about 29 months old, 28 months old. We have been doing sign language since about 6 months, since before we could sign. And we have done like play afternoons, like an hour or 2 hours in just sign language. And I'll use some words like to clarify things or like if there was safety or something, but like we'll play games, we'll play in sign language. It's like I'll go get the ball, like throw here, like just like talking to him in sign language, and he can voice. That's fine. I would love to do more play dates in sign language. It hasn't been happening, but there's a couple people I'm connecting with online that I'm hoping can connect me to some more play dates. And there's also a story time, but the time doesn't work. The sign language story time doesn't work for our schedule very well. So we're not doing that currently. And then, so that's sign language. And he does, like, as he is really cool early on, he doesn't mix them as much right now because I haven't been signing as good with him since I've been back from Italy. So like the last 2 or 3 months, I'm not doing as much. So it's on me. But there's still really cool things. Like he'll speak. So it's code mixing. He'll code mix where he'll say like, he'll say ball and sign stuck. So like ball stuck. The ball is stuck. So like he doesn't really do spoken sentences. So it's been really cool because like he will code mix sentences. So stuck or ball, ball. Or like help ball, or like something like that. He's also done, he'll speak the sign language words. So like we do pink bird for flamingo and cold bird for penguin, and he'll speak cold bird and flamingo. He'll speak cold bird and pink bird instead of saying flamingo and penguin. So that's been really interesting to observe that. I think he knows flamingo and penguin, but he speaks the sign language. So that's been cool too. So I think that's technically like signs of bilingualism for age appropriate bilingual, right? So that's been really neat. But I do need to keep up with the sign language for him. And then I'm trying to teach him Hindi too. And the reason I'm picking Hindi over Spanish, a lot of people are like, you should teach him Spanish. I'm like, maybe. I have not, so my Spanish is like Portugal. It's not great. And it mostly like practicing with the Spanish speakers that I'm around most often, for him to be a part of it. Like we don't really hang out with a lot of Spanish speakers, just one-on-one. The ones we do hang out with are not Mexican. And then a lot of like the local Mexican community, it kind of seems like they want you to speak better than what I can. And they get very frustrated and they're very impatient with my Portuguese. I don't enjoy it. And I want his learning experience to be enjoyable. We do, however, have a lot of Indian friends. And I'm hoping to be a little bit more strict moving forward about them speaking to him in Hindi, even if he doesn't understand. So I think Indians are really good about code switching to English. If there's one English speaker, even one South Indian there, they'll switch to English for that one South Indian. In Laramie, when I learned Hindi, I got to the point within the Indian community where the Indians would not code switch to English for me. Like they would speak in Hindi. They would just stay in Hindi. And since we've moved, that's considered rude. Like culturally, they're really good about not doing it. Whereas like in the States, if you have a group of Chinese people and there's one non-Chinese person that goes, they keep in Chinese, which bothers most people. I'm bothered by Indians switching to English. But I want to be more strict about our Indian friends speaking to my son in Hindi. I want him, and next time I ask him, I'm like, does he speak Hindi? I'll like, no, but I want his brain. I want him to understand that he needs the language. I want his brain to tell him that it's important to learn so that he can actually learn it. And it's hard for Indians, which is a good thing for like every other relationship, right? And then also with that, so and we do a play date with an Indian friend where we do Hindi and sign language. She's learning sign language, and I'm like teaching her a little sign language. She's teaching us Hindi. But I really want to try to do, and like with that, there's more friends. So I might not make that one be all Hindi, but like her husband, I might have her husband like speak to him in Hindi, even though he wants to do his native English, which is Gujarati. But I got him a book in Gujarati. So anyway, this whole thing, like I always have to tell him like speak to him in Hindi, and he wants to do Gujarati. I'm like, that's great, but Hindi is so much more useful, and if he learns Hindi, he will be able to. Hindi and Gujarati are mutually intelligible. I was at a point. Again, my languages are all weak now, but I was at a point where like I could understand Gujarati conversations because I knew Hindi. And so like he will naturally start to understand those if he's around enough Hindi. But then also, so having friends speak to him is one of the goals I need to implement better and be more strict about, which is so awkward because they're friends. And I'm like, but they can do it. I've seen them switch. They switch with each other. Like they can do it. It's just reminding them and getting them in the habit of it. And then like new Indians, like immediately if they speak Hindi, having them speak Hindi with my son. And then we do like a water play table where I try to do as much Hindi as possible at that activity outdoors. And then we are also reading a couple Hindi books, and I am doing those like at snack times and then some meals if my husband's not home for the meals. And also I do speak to my son in Hindi, like actually at Indian restaurants a lot. So meal time is another time where I speak to him in Hindi. And so he's getting used to it. And actually the coolest thing today, one of the books we read at the end of it, it's an intentionally, like it has Hindi, English, and then the English alphabet, Hindi transliteration. So I can read those books a little bit quicker and it sounds a little bit more actually Hindi-like. The ones that I have that are just Hindi script, I need to write out the English so that I can read them faster and like so it sounds better. And then I'll like because I know the script, but it's really hard for me to read and he would get very bored. But today, so I was reading a new book and it had a couple words for bird that I didn't know. And so I read it through it. And at the last page, it has this question like, pick the picture, match the animal with the picture in Hindi. And I read it and he picked it, the one I didn't know, he picked it from just reading it the first time. And so that just shows you. And I was like, you might be right. I have no idea because I don't know my animals in Hindi very well. Because in college, I did not play cricket. Like I did not talk about animals in Hindi with the cricket guys. And if we did talk about animals, we usually use, like that's, in America, they use English. And like, so that's the whole thing. For Italy, they don't switch to English. They switch to Italian or Bengali. So the people I'll be working with next time there, they won't switch to English. So like my Hinglish is not great in Italy. But yeah, so like he picked it up from just reading it the first time. Like he knew which picture it was. I was like, that's so cool. Like how fast kids absorb language. Like it's neat. Yeah. Okay. There you go.